Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, known as the Lubavitcher Rebbe or just the Rebbe, and is considered one of the most influential Jewish leaders of the 20th century. Schneerson made it his mission to rebuild Jewish life after the devastations of the Holocaust, to reverse the communist eradication of Judaism in Russia, and to combat widespread assimilation by encouraging Jews to engage more deeply with their faith. By preaching a non-judgemental love for all mankind, claiming that everyone is equally close to God, he inspired his followers to reach out in love and without fear to all kinds of people, from the rebelling hippies of the unregistered trademark 60s, to the college students whose connection to Judaism had been lost, to the Jews in prison, to those swept away by drug addiction, to non-Jews, and so on. He created a worldwide network of religious and social institutions aimed at reaching every Jew in the world with traditional Jewish teachings, and at spreading an ethical and moral lifestyle based on an awareness of the divine. The institutions he established include kindergartens, schools, drug rehabilitation centers, care homes for the disabled and synagogues. Today the network consists of more than 3,600 institutions in 49 out of the 50 U.S. states and over 80 countries and 1,000 cities around the world. Schneerson is noted for his contributions to Jewish continuity and religious thought, as well as his wide-ranging contributions to traditional Torah scholarship. He is recognized by all Jewish denominations as the pioneer of Jewish outreach. Early life, birth and early years. Menachem Mendel Schneerson was born on Friday, April 18, 1902, equivalent to 11 Nisan, 5662, in the town of Nikolov. His father was Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, a renowned Talmudic scholar and authority on Kabbalah and Jewish law. His mother was Rebbetzin Shana Schneerson. In 1907, when Menachem Mendel was 6 years old, the Schneersons moved to Ekaterinoslav, where Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was appointed chief rabbi of the city. He served until 1939, when he was exiled by the Soviets to Uzbekistan. Schneerson had two younger brothers, Dov Ber, who was murdered in 1944 by Nazi collaborators, and Israel Aryeh Leib, who died in 1952 while completing doctoral studies at Liverpool University. In America, escape from Europe. In 1941, Schneerson escaped from Europe on the Serpa Pinto, which sailed from Lisbon, Portugal. It was one of the last neutral passenger ships to cross the Atlantic before the danger from U-boats became too great. On the eve of his departure, Schneerson penned a treatise where he revealed his vision for the future of world Jewry and humanity. He and his wife Chaya Muska arrived in New York on June 23, 1941, where he joined his father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, in Brooklyn. Upon his arrival in New York, Yosef Yitzchak dispatched a delegation of respected members of the Shabab community to greet him at the harbor. Yosef Yitzchak told them, "You will be greeting my son-in-law. He is fluent in all of Talmud, Tosafot, the Rosh and Ran, as well as all the published Hasidic books." Arrival in America. Shortly after his arrival, his father-in-law appointed him director and chairman of the Shabbat movement's newly founded central organizations, Merkos L'Inyanei Chinuch, Machne Israel and Kehot Publication Society, placing him at the helm of the movement's Jewish educational, social services, and publishing networks across the United States, Israel, Africa, Europe and Australia. Over the next decade, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak referred many of the scholarly questions that had been inquired of him to his son-in-law Menachem Mendel. At his father-in-law unregistered trademark's request, Schneerson would speak publicly once a month, delivering talks to his father-in-law's followers, and he became increasingly known as a personal representative of Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. During the 1940s, Schneerson became a naturalized U.S. citizen and, seeking to contribute to the war effort, he went to work in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, drawing wiring for the battleship USS Missouri, and other classified military work. For many years to come, he would speak about America's special place in the world, and would argue that the bedrock of the United States' power and uniqueness came from its foundational values, which were, according to Schneerson, e pluribus in numero from many one, and in God we trust. In 1949, his father-in-law would become a U.S. citizen, with Schneerson coordinating the event. Succession of leadership. Rabbi Yosef Yitzchok Schneerson died in 1950, leaving the Shabab community in shock. Although there was no election, Shabab followers saw Schneerson as the natural candidate on dynastic grounds and on the basis of his scholarship and personal qualities. They began rallying around him, persuading him to succeed his father-in-law as Rebbe. Schneerson was reluctant, and actively refused to officially accept leadership of the movement for the entire year after Rabbi Y. Schneerson's death, but he was determined to continue all the communal activities he had previously headed. He was eventually cajoled into accepting the post by his father-in-law's followers. On the first anniversary of his father-in-law's passing, 10 Shvat 1951, he delivered a Hasidic discourse, the equivalent to a president-elect taking the oath of office, and formally became the Rebbe. During the coming 4 decades, Schneerson transformed Shabab Lubavitch from a small movement into the largest and most dynamic force in Judaism today. As Rebbe. Education. From the beginning of his leadership, Schneerson placed a strong emphasis on education and often spoke of the need of a true moral educational system. He said that education infused with godliness is the bedrock for a true moral society for all mankind regardless of religious faith, and that one cannot rest until every child, boy and girl, receives a proper moral education. Seeking to promote awareness for educational matters, Schneerson proclaimed 1977 as a Year of Education and urged Congress to do the same. He stated, a Year education, in general, should not be limited to the acquisition of knowledge and preparation for a career, or, in common parlance, a euro to make a better living, a euro unregistered trademark. We must think in terms of a better living, a euro unregistered trademark, not only for the individual, but also for the society as a whole. The educational system must, therefore, pay more attention, indeed the main attention, to the building of character, with emphasis on moral and ethical values. Education must put greater emphasis on the promotion of fundamental human rights and obligations of justice and morality, which are the basis of any human society, if it is to be truly human and not turn into a jungle. Following Schneerson's urging, the 95th Congress of the United States issued a joint resolution proclaiming 1978 as a Year of Education and designating April 18, 1978, as Education Day, USA. Since then, in recognition of Schneerson's contribution to a Euro areas of ethical, moral and cultural education, a Euro every president has issued a proclamation, proclaiming Schneerson's birthday as Education and Sharing Day, USA. In 1982 Ronald Reagan also proclaimed Schneerson's birthday as a Euro National Day of Reflection, a Euro, and presented the Euro National Scroll of Honor that was signed by the President, Vice President and every member of Congress. Schneerson had great influence on numerous political leaders, many of whom would seek his advice. During his years as Rebbe, he was visited by presidents, prime ministers, governors, senators, congressmen and mayors. Notable among them are prominent American politicians such as John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Jr., Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Jacob Javits, Ed Koch, Rudy Giuliani, David Dinkins and Joe Lieberman. Women. In 1953, Schneerson established the Lubavitch Women's Organization. And in a marked departure from an entrenched tendency to limit high-level Torah education to men and boys, he addressed his teachings equally to both genders. Schneerson would describe the increase in Torah study by women as one of the positive innovations of the later generations. Jewish outreach. Rabbi Schneerson was the first person to put priority on what today is called Kiruv, and drawing Jews closer to their religion, and he believed that the American public was seeking to learn more about their Jewish heritage. Speaking to an American journalist in 1951, he stated, "America is not lost, you are not different. You sincerely crave to know, to learn. Americans are inquisitive. It is Shabbat's point of view that the American mind is simple, honest, direct, a Euro good, tillable soil for Hasidism, or just plain Judaism." Rabbi Schneerson believed that Jews need not be on the defensive, but need to be on the ground building Jewish institutions, day schools and synagogues. Rabbi Schneerson said that we need to discharge ourselves of our duty and we must take the initiative. Rabbi Schneerson placed a tremendous emphasis on outreach. He made great efforts to intensify this program of the Shabbat movement, bringing Jews from all walks of life to adopt Torah-observant Judaism, and aggressively sought the expansion of the Baal Teshuvah movement. His work included organizing the training of thousands of young Shabbat rabbis and their wives, who were sent all over the world by him as shlushim to promote Jewish observance and education. He oversaw the building of schools, community centers, youth camps, and Shabbat houses, and established contacts with wealthy Jews and government officials around the world. Rabbi Schneerson also instituted a system of Shabbat mitzvah campaigns called Mivtzoim to encourage Jews to follow Orthodox Jewish practices. They commonly centered on practices such as keeping kosher, lighting Shabbat candles, studying Torah, putting on tefillin, helping to write Sifrei Torah, and teaching women to observe the laws of Jewish family purity. He also launched a global Noahide campaign to promote observance of the Noahide laws among Gentiles, and argued that involvement in this campaign is an obligation for every Jew. Today there are Shabbat shlushim, emissaries of Rabbi Schneerson, in over 70 countries and 1,000 cities around the world, totaling more than 3,600 institutions. Shabbat is very often the only Jewish presence in a given town or city, and it has become the face of Jewish orthodoxy for the Jewish and general world. Israel, Schneerson always took an interest into the affairs of the State of Israel. He did whatever was in his power to support the infrastructure of the state, and advance its success. He was concerned with the agricultural, industrial and overall economic welfare of Israel, and sought to promote its scientific achievements, and enhance Israel's standing in the international community. He consistently expressed enormous recognition for the role of the Israel Defense Forces and stated that those who serve in the Israeli army perform a great mitzvah. Although he never was in Israel, many of Israel's top leadership made it a point to visit him. Israeli President, Zalman Shazar, would visit Schneerson and corresponded extensively with him, as would Prime Minister Menachem Begin, who came to visit him before going to Washington to meet President Carter. Ariel Sharon, who had a close relationship with Schneerson, often quoted his view on military matters and sought his advice when he considered retiring from the military. Schneerson advised the general to remain at his post. Yitzhak Rabin, Shimon Peres and Benjamin Netanyahu also paid visits and sought Schneerson's advice, along with numerous other less famous politicians, diplomats, military officials, and media producers. Schneerson publicly expressed his view, that the safety and stability of Israel were in the best interests of the United States, as Israel is the front line against those who want the anti-West nations to succeed. Just before the outbreak of the Six-Day War, Schneerson instructed his followers in Israel and throughout the world to initiate an active tefillin campaign, to see that Jews observe the mitzvah of tefillin as a means of ensuring divine protection against Israel's enemies. Speaking to a crowd of thousands of people on May 28, 1967, only a few days before the outbreak of the war, he assured the world that Israel would be victorious. He said Israel had no need to fear as God was with them, quoting the verse, "The guardian of Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers." After the Operation Entebbe rescue, in a public talk on August 16, 1976, Schneerson applauded the courage and selflessness of the IDF, who flew thousands of miles, putting their lives in danger for the sole purpose of possibly saving the lives of tens of Jews. He said a portion in the hereafter is guaranteed €1. He was later vilified by ultra-Haredi rabbis for publicly praising the courage of irreligious, Zionist soldiers and suggesting that God chose these people as a medium through which he would send deliverance to the Jewish people. Schneerson protested vehemently against those elements within the ultra-Haredi society who sought to undermine the motivations and actions of the soldiers. He corresponded with David Ben-Gurion on the issue of Judaism in the State of Israel, asking the Prime Minister to ensure that Israel remains Jewish. He lobbied Israeli politicians to pass legislation in accordance with Jewish law on the question, "Who is a Jew?" and asked that they add the words "according to Halakha" to the declaration so that it state that only one who is born of a Jewish mother or converted according to Halakha is Jewish. This caused a furore in the United States. Some American Jewish philanthropies stopped financially supporting Shabab Lubavitch since most of their members were connected to Reform and Conservative Judaism. Controversial issues such as territorial compromise in Israel that might have estranged benefactors from giving much-needed funds to Shabab. United Nations, Benjamin Netanyahu said that while serving as Israeli unregistered trademark ambassador to the United Nations in 1984, Schneerson told him, "You will be serving in a house of darkness, but remember, that even in the darkest place, the light of a single candle can be seen far and wide." Netanyahu later retold this episode in a speech at the General Assembly, on September 23, 2011. Soviet Jewry. Schneerson greatly encouraged the Jews who were trapped behind the Iron Curtain. He sent many emissaries on covert missions to sustain Judaism under communist regimes and to provide them with their religious and material needs. Many Jews from behind the Iron Curtain would correspond with Schneerson, sending their letters to him via secret messenger and addressing Schneerson in code name. Schneerson spoke passionately about the Jews in Russia. He said, "Behind the Iron Curtain, there are Jews who are in an extremely precarious position, to the extent that they must have self-sacrifice for every aspect of fulfillment of Judaism. Nevertheless, they do not worry about their physical wants. There are Jews who do not have tefillin. They cannot go to the synagogue, for if they get caught they will lose their employment. Despite all this, they make no calculations regarding what the next day may bring. Their whole desire is to be able to put on tefillin." Schneerson, who had an intimate knowledge of the Soviet government and their tactics, opposed demonstrations on behalf of Soviet Jews, stating that he had evidence that they were harming Russia-unregistered trademark Jews. Instead he advocated quiet diplomacy, which he said would be more effective. Schneerson did whatever was in his power to push for the release of Jews from the former Soviet Union and established schools, communities and other humanitarian resources to assist with their absorption into Israel. On one known occasion he instructed Senator Sheikh Hek to provide President Ronald Reagan with contact information of people who wished to leave so that he could lobby their release. Following the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, Schneerson called for efforts to rescue children from Chernobyl and founded a special organization for this purpose. The first rescue flight occurred on August 3, 1990, when 196 children were flown to Israel and brought to a shelter campus. Since then, thousands of children have been rescued and brought to Israel where they receive housing, education and medical care in a supportive environment. Natan Sharansky, the chairman of the Jewish Agency, said that Shabab Lubavitch was an essential connector to Soviet Jewry during the Cold War, while Shimon Peres has stated that unregistered trademark to Schneerson's credit that Judaism in the Soviet Union has been preserved. Iran, beginning in the winter of 1979, during the tumultuous days of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Rabbi Schneerson directed his emissaries to make arrangements to rescue Jewish teenagers from Iran and place them in foster homes within the Lubavitcher community in Brooklyn. This mission, while not political in nature, was originally started as a secretive quest in order not to jeopardize the safety of the Iranian Jewish community at large. Many of Rabbi Schneerson's followers in Brooklyn were asked to open their homes to these Jewish children and help save their lives from another potential Holocaust in the making. The new Islamic government in Iran was vocally opposed to the existence of Israel and created a genuine concern in world Jewish circles by accusing many in the Jewish community of being Zionists. The execution of the leader of the Iranian Jewish community, Habib el-Ghanian, had made this a tangible threat to the very existence of the community. Ultimately, while more than a dozen members of the Jewish community were executed by the new Iranian government, Jews were allowed to continue to live in Iran and there would be no Holocaust. Hundreds of Jewish children from Tehran and other major cities in Iran were flown from Tehran to New York with the help of Schneerson's emissaries, placed in foster homes in Crown Heights and educated in Shabbat schools. Many would adopt the Lubavitcher lifestyle and later, some even served as Shabbat emissaries and religious leaders. Many others would later reunite with their biological parents after their parents and other family members emigrated to the United States. Scholarship. Rabbi Schneerson is known for his scholarship both in the Talmud and hidden parts of the Torah. Rabbis and Rosh Yeshivas, as well as scientists and professors who would meet him or correspond with him, would marvel at his wisdom and knowledge, of both Torah and secular subjects. Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, former chief rabbi of Israel, has said regarding one of his meetings with Rabbi Schneerson, the conversation covered all sections of the Torah, the Talmud, Jewish law, Kabbalah, etc. The Rebbe jumped effortlessly from one Talmudic tractate to another, and from there to Kabbalah and then to Jewish law. He was clear in all the subjects discussed and organized in his delivery. It was as if he had just finished studying these very topics from the holy books. The whole Torah was an open book in front of him. His collected writings and speeches are gathered in more than 100 volumes in Hebrew and Yiddish. They include Torah expositions, halakhic analysis, Talmudic discourses, explorations of Jewish mysticism and letters of guidance to Jews throughout the world. He also penned tens of thousands of replies to requests and questions. The majority of his correspondence is printed in Igrat Kodesh, partly translated as letters from the Rebbe. His correspondence fills more than 200 published volumes. These detailed and personal letters to many thousands of people offer advice and explanation on a wide variety of subjects, including spiritual matters as well as all aspects of life. He is also especially renowned for his original insights and unprecedented analysis of Rashi's Torah commentary, which were delivered at the regular public Farbenegans. Many of these talks were later published in the 39-volume set of Likutei Sikhos. In halachic matters, he would normally refer to local Orthodox rabbis, and advise the movement to do likewise in the event of his death. While Rabbi Schneerson rarely chose to involve himself with questions of halakha, some notable exceptions were with regard to the use of electrical appliances on Shabbat, sailing on Israeli boats staffed by Jews, and halakhic dilemmas related to certain religious observances which may arise when crossing the international date line. Public addresses. Rabbi Schneerson was known for delivering regular lengthy addresses to his followers at public gatherings in precise Yiddish and without a text or even any notes open in front of him the entire time. These talks usually centered on the weekly Torah portion and on various tractates of the Talmud, during which he demonstrated a unique and amazing approach in explaining seemingly different concepts by analysis of the fundamental principle common to the entire tractate. These talks were then transcribed by followers known as Kaiserim and distributed widely. Many of them were later edited by him and distributed worldwide in small booklets, later to be compiled in the Likutei Sikhot. Listening to these talks, which sometimes went for 8 or 9 hours straight, was an unparalleled spiritual experience. Following his attendance at one such talk with his son-in-law Rabbi Israel Lau, the then Rabbi of Tel Aviv, Itzhak Yedidiah Frankel said, "I have witnessed the magnificence of Polish Jewry. And I have known most of the great scholars of recent generations. But I have never seen such command of the material. That is genius." Yechidus and Sunday dollars. Beginning in 1951 when he accepted the leadership, Schneerson would receive visitors twice a week, on Sundays and Thursdays. These meetings, called Yechidus, would start at 8 p.m. and often continue until 5 in the morning. Anyone would have the chance to meet Schneerson privately for a discussion and to receive his advice and blessings. These meetings had to be booked in advance with Mordechai Hodakov, Schneerson's chief secretary. At such private audiences he would meet over 3,000 people. The sessions were so popular that reservations were required often months in advance. It was at these sessions that Schneerson met with mayors, senators, presidents and every prime minister of Israel. Aside from a brief period of 2 months, after Schneerson suffered a heart attack in 1978, these meetings lasted weekly until 1982 when it became impossible to facilitate the large number of people. These meetings were then held only for those who had a special occasion, such as bride and groom for their wedding or a boy and his family on the occasion of a bar mitzvah. In 1986, Rabbi Schneerson again began to regularly greet people individually. This time, the personal meetings took the form of a weekly receiving line in 770. Almost every Sunday, thousands of people would line up to meet briefly with Schneerson and receive a $1 bill, which was to be donated to charity. People filing past Schneerson would often take this opportunity to ask him for advice or to request a blessing. This event is usually referred to as Sunday dollars. Asked once how he doesn't tire of standing so long, he replied, "Every soul is a diamond. Can one grow tired of counting diamonds?" Beginning in 1989, these events were recorded on videotape. Posthumously, hundreds of thousands of these encounters have been posted online for public access. 770 inches. Rabbi Schneerson rarely left Crown Heights in Brooklyn except for frequent lengthy visits to his father-in-law's gravesite in Queens, New York. A year after the death of his wife, Chermoska, in 1988, when the traditional year of Jewish mourning had passed, he moved into his study above the Central Lubavitch Synagogue at 770 Eastern Parkway. It was from this location that Rabbi Schneerson directed his emissaries' work and managed the movement's development. His public roles included celebrations called Farbrengens on Shabbats, Jewish holy days, and special days on the Shabbat calendar, when he would give lengthy sermons to crowds. In later years, these would often be broadcast on cable television and via satellite to Lubavitch branches around the world. Works, books in Hebrew and Yiddish, Likutei Sikot, a 39-volume set of Schneerson's discourses on the weekly Torah portions, Jewish holidays, and other issues. Hayom Yom, an anthology of Shabbat aphorisms and customs arranged according to the days of the year. Torat Menachem, 83 volumes of unedited talks, translated into Hebrew, 1950 to 1969, and 1982 1992. Planned to encompass 1950 1992. Haggadah im Likutei To'amim Manhajim, the Haggadah with a commentary written by Schneerson. Sefer HaToldot, Admor Moyarash, biography of the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Shmuel Schneerson. Sefer HaSiklot, 12-volume set of Rabbi Schneerson's edited talks from 1987 1992. Sefer HaMemorim Melukot, 6 volumes of edited Chassidic discourses. Kedushim Urim Pshorza, 3 volumes of novelli on the Talmud. Besharas Hagula, compilation of talks on the imminent arrival of Moshe from 1990 1992. Siklot Kodesh, 50 volumes of original verbatim talks in Yiddish, from 1950 1981. Hachel Menachem, Sharu, 34 volumes of talks arranged by topic and holiday. Sefer HaShlikut, 2-volume set of Schneerson's advice and guidelines to the Shlushim he sent. Karati V'Inani, compilation of sikkos discussing the halachic prohibition of surrendering land in the land of Israel to non-Jews. Sefer HaMemorim Hasidic discourses, approximately 24 vols. Including 1951 1962, 1969 1977 with plans to complete the rest. Ba'urim LePeirosh Rashi, 5-volume set summarizing talks on the commentary of Rashi to Torah. Torat Menachem, Tiferet Levi Yitzchok, 3 volumes of elucidations drawn from his talks on cryptic notes of his father. Ba'urim LePerkei after, 2 volumes summarizing talks on the Mishnaic Tractate of Ethics of the Fathers. Yin Malkut, 2 volumes of talks on the Mishnah Torah. Kal Be'olam, addresses and letters concerning the New Hide campaign. Hilchot Beit Habit Shira Laharang Bar Min Kedushim Birim, talks on the laws of the chosen house of the Mishnah Torah. Ham Lech Bim Zibbo, 2 volumes of discussions at the semi-public holiday meals. Torat Menachem, Menachem Zion, 2 volumes on mourning. Books in English, Letters from the Rebbe, 5-volume set of Rabbi Schneerson's English letters. Path to Selflessness, work discussing the bond between the individual soul and GD. Garments of the Soul, discussing the sublime importance of mundane activities, and their effect on the soul. Personal writings and correspondence, Igrat Kodesh, 30-volume set of Rabbi Schneerson's Hebrew and Yiddish letters. Reshimet, 10-volume set of Schneerson's personal journal discovered after his death. Includes notes for his public talks before 1950, letters to Jewish scholars, notes on the Tanya, and thoughts on a wide range of Jewish subjects. Collections and Esoterica, Hachel Menachem Euro 3 volumes. Mikdash Mlecha Euro 4 volumes. Nelcha Borchesov, Mikadesh Israel Euro talks and pictures from his officiating at weddings. Yemei Bashit Euro diary of the first year of his leadership, 1950 Euro 1951. Binat Desh Euro diary of his visit and talks to Camp Gan Israel in upstate New York. Zodik Lumlech Euro 7 volumes of letters, handwritten notes, anecdotes, and other. Personal life, early education. During his youth, Schneerson received a mostly private Jewish education. He was tutored by Zalman Vilenkin from 1909 through 1913. In 1977, he said of Vilenkin, he taught me and my brothers Chumash, Rashi and Talmud. He put me on my feet. He was an illustrious Jew. When Schneerson was 11 years old, Vilenkin informed the boy's father that he had nothing more to teach his son. At that point, the boy's father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, began teaching his son. He also taught him Kabbalah. And Menachem Mendel was gifted in both Talmudic and Kabbalistic study. Yonikes, who in his youth frequented Schneerson's home, later recounted, I witnessed his intense diligence in Torah study. I always found him learning in a standing position, never sitting down. I remember him as an extremely private person, an introvert. His entire being, as I recall it, was Torah. He was considered an Eluian genius, and by the time he was 17, he had mastered the entire Talmud, some 5,894 pages with all its early commentaries. Menachem Mendel learned far more from his father than just Talmud and Kabbalah. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak's courage and principles were a guide to his son for the rest of his life. Many years later, when he once reminisced about his youth, Schneerson said, I have the education of the firstborn son of the rabbi of Ekaterinoslav. When it comes to saving lives, I speak up whatever other may say. Schneerson later studied independently under his father, who was his primary teacher. He studied Talmud and rabbinic literature, as well as the Hasidic view of Kabbalah. He received separate rabbinical ordinations from both the Rogatchover Gaon, Yosef Rosen, and from Rabbi Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg. Although Schneerson didn't attend a Soviet school, he took the exams as an external student and did well on them, and he immersed himself in Jewish studies while simultaneously qualifying for Russian secondary school. Throughout his childhood, Schneerson was involved in the affairs of his father's office, where his secular education and knowledge of the Russian language were useful in assisting his father's public administrative work. He was also said to have acted as an interpreter between the Jewish community and the Russian authorities on a number of occasions. Early travels and marriage. In 1923, Schneerson visited the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, where he met his middle daughter, Chaya Muska. The couple became engaged in Riga in 1923 and married 5 years later in Warsaw, Poland. Jana Schneerson, the mother of Menachem Mendel, has noted in her memoirs that when Yosef Yitzchak was permitted to leave the USSR in 1927, he submitted a list of those for whom he requested an exit visa to accompany him. And that the list included my son, Menachem Mendel. She then notes that for each one on the list individually, the Rebbe gave a reason for his request, a reason the Soviet government officials had to find satisfactory. When they came to his request for our son, however, they asked the Rebbe why he needed him. He replied that he wanted him as a son-in-law, to marry his daughter. Do you really need to bring even a son-in-law from here? They asked, to which the Rebbe replied firmly, I want a unregistered trademark to find such a son-in-law there. Schneerson returned to Warsaw for his wedding, and in an article about his wedding in a Warsaw newspaper, a number of academic degrees were attributed to him. During the wedding celebration, an elder chassid asked Yosef Yitzchak, tell me about the groom. To which he responded, I have given my daughter to this man. He is wholly fluent in the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmuds. He knows the Torah writings of the Rishonim and Acharonim, and much, much more. Taking great pride in his son-in-law's outstanding knowledge, Yosef Yitzchak asked him to engage the great Torah scholars that were present at the wedding in learned conversation. The marriage was long and happy, but childless. Menachem Mendel Schneerson and Yosef Schneerson are both descendants of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, known as the Zemch Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Shabab Lubavitch. Berlin, studies. After his marriage to Chair Moschka, Schneerson and his wife moved to Berlin where he studied mathematics, physics and philosophy at the University of Berlin. His father-in-law took pride in his erudite son-in-law's scholarly attainments and paid for all the tuition expenses and helped facilitate his studies throughout. Whilst in Berlin, Schneerson wrote hundreds of pages of his own original Torah discourses, and corresponded with many of Eastern Europe's leading rabbinic figures. During his stay in Berlin, Schneerson was assigned specific communal tasks by his father-in-law, who also requested that he write scholarly annotations to the responsa and various Hasidic discourses of the earlier Rebbe unregistered trademark S of Shabab Lubavitch. Yosef Schneerson also sought his annotations to various Hasidic discourses. It was during this period, between 1928 and 1932, that there took place a serious interchange of halachic correspondence between Schneerson and the famed Talmudic genius known as the Rugach Overgain. This correspondence is indicative of Schneerson's Talmudic erudition at the time. In 1933 he also met with Rabbi Chaim Eliezer Shapiro, as well as with famed Talmudist Rabbi Shimon Schkop. During this time he would keep a diary in which he would carefully document his private conversations with his father-in-law Yosef Schneerson, as well as corresponded with his father, Levi Yitzchak Schneerson. Relationship with Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik, Rabbis Herschel Schachter, Sholem Kowalski, Julius Berman, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, and Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld have asserted that Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson and Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik met for the first time while they both studied in Berlin. They met many times at the home of Chaim Haller in Berlin, and remained close even after the two left Germany. According to Soloveitchik's son Rabbi Dr. Chaim Soloveitchik, Rabbi Soloveitchik only saw Rabbi Schneerson pass by in Berlin and they did not meet while there. Schneerson and Soloveitchik formed a friendship that remained between them years later when they both emigrated to America. In 1964, Soloveitchik paid a lengthy visit to Schneerson while the latter was mourning the death of his mother. Their conversation during this visit lasted approximately 2 hours, after which Soloveitchik told those who accompanied him, "The Rebbe has a Chwaldija comprehension of the Torah." Soloveitchik later visited again following the death of Schneerson's mother-in-law. In 1980, accompanied by his student Herschel Schachter, Soloveitchik visited Schneerson at a celebration marking the 30th anniversary of his leadership. The visit lasted close to 2 hours, after which Soloveitchik told Schachter his opinion of Schneerson. He is a great one, he is a leader of Israel. Paris, in 1933, after the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, Schneerson left Berlin and moved to Paris, France. He continued his religious and communal activities while studying mechanics and electrical engineering at the École Spa Copyright Salle des Travaux Publics, du Bas-Saint-Timon et de l'Industrie, a Grands copyright calls in the Montparnasse district. He graduated in July 1937 and received a degree. In November 1937, he enrolled at the Sorbonne, where he studied mathematics until World War II broke out in 1939. During his time in Paris, Schneerson oversaw and edited the Hatamim, a scholarly rabbinic journal that was published periodically from 1935 until 1938. Rabbi Yosef Schneerson wrote to his daughter, Chair Moschka, "Although other names will appear in print, the entire work of Hatamim is that of my dear and beloved son-in-law, the rabbi." His father-in-law, Yosef also recommended that Professor Alexander Vasilyevich Batchenko consult with Menachem Mendel regarding various religious and mystical matters. Prominent rabbis, such as Yerachmiel Binyaminson and Eliyahu Eliezer Dessler, turned to Schneerson with their queries regarding the reconciliation of different rabbinic and Kabbalistic opinions. His response has been published in Igrat Kodesh. On June 11, 1940, 3 days before Paris fell to the Nazis, the Schneersons fled to Vichy, and later to Nice, where they stayed until their final escape from Europe in 1941. Later life, illness, In 1977, Rabbi Schneerson suffered a heart attack while celebrating the Hakafot ceremony on Shemini Atzeret. Despite the best efforts of his doctors to convince him to change his mind, he refused to be hospitalized. This necessitated building a mini-hospital in his headquarters at 770. Although he did not appear again in public for 4 weeks, Rabbi Schneerson continued to deliver talks and discourses from his study via intercom. His chief cardiologist, Dr. Ira Weiss, later stated that despite his own protestations against the Rebbe's being treated in 770, in retrospect, it turned out to be the correct decision, and the Rebbe, in fact, received better medical care in 770 than he would have had we taken him to the hospital. On Rosh Chodesh Kislev, he left his study for the first time in more than a month to go home. His followers celebrate this day as a holiday each year. Retirement. Schneerson was opposed to retirement, seeing it as a waste of precious years. In 1972, on the occasion of his 70th birthday, Schneerson spoke at length about his opposition to retirement, and instead of announcing a retirement plan, he proposed the establishment of 71 new institutions to mark the beginning of the 71st year of his life. In the mid-1980s, when Schneerson was already in his late 80s, he remarked to Rabbi David Hollander, who was contemplating retiring at the time, "I am older than you are, and I am taking on additional burdens, by what right do you retire?" Death of his wife. On February 10, 1988, Rebbetzin Chair Moshe Schneerson died. Following her death, Schneerson greatly increased his public functions. For example, whereas previously he had led Shabbat gatherings once a month, he now began holding these gatherings every Shabbat. He later edited these addresses, which have since been published in the 10-volume Sefer HaSikkos set. Final illness. In 1992, Schneerson suffered a serious stroke while praying at the grave of his father-in-law. The stroke left him unable to speak and paralyzed on the right side of his body. Nonetheless, he continued to respond daily to thousands of queries and requests for blessings from around the world. His secretaries would read the letters to him and he would indicate his response with head and hand motions. During this time, the belief in Schneerson as the Messiah became more widespread. Despite his deteriorating health, Schneerson once again refused to leave 770. Several months into his illness, a small room with tinted glass windows and an attached balcony was built overlooking the main synagogue. This allowed Rabbi Schneerson to pray with his followers, beginning with the Rosh Hashanah services, and to appear before them after services either by having the window opened or by being carried out onto the balcony. His final illness led to a split between two groups of aides who differed in their recommendations as to how Schneerson should be treated, with the two camps led by Leib Groner and Yehuda Krinsky. Final years, stated goals. From his childhood and throughout the years of his leadership, the Rebbe explained that his goal was to make the world a better place, and to eliminate suffering. In 1954, in a letter to Yitzhak ben Tzvi, Israel's second president, the Rebbe wrote, "From the time that I was a child attending Cheder, and even before, the vision of the future redemption began to take form in my imagination, the redemption of the Jewish people from their final exile, a redemption of such magnitude and grandeur through which the purpose of the suffering, the harsh decrees and annihilation of exile will be understood." Final declarations. In 1991, he declared to his followers, "I have done everything I can to bring Moshe, now I am handing over to you the mission. Do everything you can to bring Moshe." A campaign was then started to usher in the Messianic age through acts of goodness and kindness, and some of his followers placed advertisements in the mass media, including many full-page ads in the New York Times, declaring in Rabbi Schneerson's name that the Moshe's arrival was imminent, and urging everyone to prepare for and hasten it by increasing their good deeds. Death and burial. Rabbi Schneerson died at the Beth Israel Medical Center on June 12, 1994 and was buried at the Ohel next to his teacher and father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, at Montefiore Cemetery in Queens, New York, in 1994. The Ohel had been built around the previous Rebbe's grave in 1952. Funeral. According to police estimates, some 35,000 people were gathered outside Lubavitch headquarters waiting for the coffin to be brought outside. When the plain pine coffin appeared, the scene became one of emotional mayhem, with women wailing and men pressing forward to touch it. The 350 police who were on the scene could barely contain the surging crowds, and the pallbearers had difficulty getting the coffin into a waiting hearse. Among the dignitaries present at Lubavitch headquarters were New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, Benjamin Netanyahu, Gad Yacobi, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Coletta Vital, Israeli Consul General in New York, and Malcolm Hernein, the chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations. Ohel Shabbat Lubavitch Center. Soon after Schneerson's death, philanthropist Joseph Gutnick of Melbourne, Australia established the Ohel Shabbat Lubavitch Center on Francis Lewis Boulevard, Queens, New York, which is located adjacent to the Rebbe's Ohel. Following the age-old Jewish tradition of turning the resting place of a tzaddik into a place of prayer, thousands of people flock to the Rebbe's resting place every week. Many more sent faxes and emails with requests for prayers to be read at the gravesite. Awards and tributes. U.S. government awards. Starting with President Carter in 1978, the U.S. Congress and President have issued proclamations each year, declaring that Rabbi Schneerson's birthday usually a day in March or April that coincides with his recognized Hebrew calendar birth date of 11 Nisan be observed as Education and Sharing Day in the United States. The Rebbe would usually respond with a public address on the importance of education in modern society, and holding forth on the United States' special role in the world. Honors. On March 25, 1983, on the occasion of his 80th birthday, the United States Congress proclaimed Rabbi Schneerson's birthday as Education Day, USA, and awarded him the National Scroll of Honor. Honored by Congress, after Schneerson's death, a bill was introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives sponsored by Congressman Charles Schumer and co-sponsored by John Lewis, Newt Gingrich, and Jerry Lewis, as well as 220 other congressmen to posthumously bestow upon Schneerson the Congressional Gold Medal. On November 2, 1994 the bill passed both houses by unanimous consent, honoring Schneerson for his outstanding and enduring contributions toward world education, morality, and acts of charity. President Bill Clinton spoke these words at the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony. Other posthumous commendations. In 2009, the National Museum of American Jewish History selected Schneerson as one of 18 American Jews to be included in their Only in America Hall of Fame. Controversies. Wills. There is considerable controversy within Shabbat about Schneerson's will, as he named no successor. He did however write one legal will, which was signed before witnesses, whereby he transferred stewardship of all the major Shabbat institutions, as well as all his possessions to Agudas Chassidai Shabbat. Another will, no executed copies of which are known to be in existence, named 3 senior Shabbat rabbis, as directors of Agudas Chassidai Shabbat. Moshch fervor. Rabbi Schneerson's followers believed he was the Jewish Messiah, the Moshch, and some have persisted in that belief since his death. The reverence with which he was treated by followers led many Jewish critics from both the conservative and reform communities to allege that a cult of personality had grown up around him. His obituary in the New York Times said he was attacked for allowing a cult of personality to grow around him from conservative and reform critics. Though he worked to dissuade his followers from making it that, telling New York Times reporter Israel Schenker in 1972, "I have never given any reason for a cult of personality, and I do all in my power to dissuade them from making it that." Moshe D. Sherman, an associate professor at Touro College, wrote that as Schneerson's empire grew, a personality cult developed around him. Portraits of Rabbi Schneerson were placed in all Lubavitch homes, shops, and synagogues, and devoted followers routinely requested a blessing from him prior to their marriage, following an illness, or at other times of need. References. Further reading. Joseph Telashkin. Reb, The Life and Teachings of Menachem M. Schneerson, the Most Influential Rabbi in Modern History. Harper Wave, 2014. ISBN 978-0062318985, J. Miller. Turning Judaism Outwards, A Biography of the Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Kol Menachem, 2014. ISBN 978-1934152,362, at Instansalts. My Reb. Magid Books, 2014. ISBN 978-159-264-381-3, Shaul Shimon Deutsch. Larger Than Life, The Life and Times of the Lubavitcher Rebbe Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Volumes 1-2 Chasidic Historical Productions, Volume 1-1995, Volume 2-1997. ISBN 978-0964724303, 978-0964724310. Sue Fishkoff. The Rebbe's Army, Inside the World of Shabab Lubavitch. Skokken, 2005. ISBN 978-0805211382, Eliot Wolfson. Open Secret, Post-Messianic Messianism and the Mystical Revision of Menachem Mendel Schneerson. New York, Columbia University Press, 2009. ISBN 978-0-231-14630-2, Samuel C. Heilman and Menachem M. Friedman. The Rebbe. The Life and Afterlife of Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Princeton and Oxford, Princeton University Press. 2010. ISBN 978-0-691-13888-6, Rachel Elia, The Lubavitch Messianic Resurgence, The Historical and Mystical Background 1939–1996, Toward the Millennium Euro-Messianic Expectations from the Bible to Waco, Leiden, Brill 1998, 383–408, Chaim Rappaport. The Afterlife of Scholarship. Oporto Press, 2011. ISBN 0615538975, Hoffman, Edward. Despite All Odds, The Story of Lubavitch. New York, New York, Simon & Schuster. ISBN A0-671-67703-9. LCCNA 9010115. OCLCA 22113189. Elik, Avram the Messiah of Brooklyn, Understanding Lubavitch Hasidism Past and Present. Jersey City, New Jersey, KTAV Publishing. ISBN A0-88125-836-9. LCCNA 200414552. OCLCA 55800922. External links, works available online, Shabab.org. Euroliterature, Sikos Kodesh The Rebbe's Original Unedited Talks 1950 1981, Sikos Blair Hakea The Rebbe's Unedited Talks, Sikos in English, Igros Kodesh, Torah's Menachem, Hayom Yom, The Rebbe's 10-Point Mitzvah Campaign, audio recordings of the Rebbe's addresses, more audio recordings of the Rebbe's addresses, the official archive of all the Rebbe's weekday talks, works available on iTunes, Ask the Rebbe. Answers from the Rebbe's letters. Biography of Menachem Mendel Schneerson, The Rebbe's Life, video lecture on Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of Shabab by Dr. Henry Abramson of Touro College South, historical sites, the OL, about Schneerson's burial site, Proclamation of Education and Sharing Day 2002 by President George W. Bush, also honoring the 100th birthdate of Rabbi Schneerson, Education and Sharing Day, USA, 2007, numerous proclamations by President Reagan citing work of Rabbi Schneerson and promotion of the 7 Noahide laws, Congressional Gold Medal recipient Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, tributes to the Lubavitcher Rebbe by Menachem Begin, Bill Clinton. Newt Gingrich, Israel Mulau, John Lewis, Joseph Lieberman, Yitzhak Rabin, Avizor Ravitsky, Jonathan Sachs, Lawrence Schiffman, at Instansalts, Margaret Thatcher, Elie Wiesel and Eliot Wolfson. Family Tree, commemorative remarks archived January 25, 2006 at the Wayback Machine upon the occasion of the 10th Yazit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe Rabbi Drive Tzvi Hirsch Wien Rebbe of the Orthodox Union, Timeline of Menachem Mendel Schneerson 1928–1938, My Encounter with the Rebbe, an oral history project undertaken by Jewish Educational Media, JM, to record the history of Rabbi Schneerson.